Okay, so the first problem on this review has been one of the most either skipped or missed problems that I've seen so far for those that have been working on the review, and that really doesn't need to be the case. If you read the instructions, it says to put the polynomial in standard form. Putting it in standard form essentially just means put it in order. So all we need to do is look at each of these terms and determine what order they should be in. Well, order is based off of the exponents. So these numbers up here in the corner are the exponents. This one here would have a 1, and the 8 doesn't have an exponent at all. So those little numbers up in the corner are going to determine what order they should be in. So the 2x to the 4th, that's the one that I would start with. And then I do the 3x to the 3rd. Because it's positive, I'll put a plus sign. Then I would do the minus 4x squared. And then the plus 7x. And finally, the plus 8 that doesn't have the x at all. So that's really all we need to do. We don't need to combine any like terms because there aren't any. None of these would be the same. We don't need to add, subtract, multiply anything. It's just put them in order. So then on to number 2. I've seen several people attempting to use the box method for this one, which is something that we are going to be using on this paper, but it's not what we are going to do to add things together. And if you look at the middle of the problem, we can see that this is an addition problem, right? We're adding these two things together, not multiplying. So when we're adding, all we need to do is find the like terms. So the first thing that I see is 9z. If I look at the other terms that I have, I see a 4z. Those are like terms because they both have z. So 9z and 4z would be like terms that I'd put together. And then the next thing I see is this plus 1. I can see that would be a like term with the minus 6 because both of those don't have a variable. So the plus 1 and the minus 6, those would be like terms that I'd put together. So looking at 9z and 4z, when I combine those, I do 9 plus 4, which is 13. And then the variable part, when we combine like terms, that part doesn't change. So 9z plus 4z is just 13z. It doesn't become z squared or anything like that. It just stays z. And then the last part, we have this positive 1 and minus 6. 1 minus 6 is negative 5. And so there is my final answer, 13z minus 5. So number 3 is going to be the same thing. We have an addition sign in the middle. So we're going to be looking for our like terms and adding them together. Here the first thing that I see is 6a squared. So I'll start with that. And then I look to see if I have anything that would be a like term with that. And here I see a negative a squared. So those would be like terms because they both have a squared. Then the next thing that I see is this plus 2a. So I look to see if I have anything that would be a like term with that, and it looks like I have a plus 4a. So those would go together. And next I see a plus 9. My other term here, this minus 3, those would both be like terms because they both don't have the variable at all. And so the plus 9 and minus 3 would go together as like terms. So now for the a squared, this would be 6a squared minus a squared. You can think about there'd be an invisible 1 in front of that a squared. 6 minus 1 is 5. That gives me 5a squared. For the a's, 2a plus 4a, that would give me 6a. And 9 minus 3 gives me 6. So 5a squared plus 6a plus 6 is my final answer for this problem. Okay, now number 4, if I look at what's in the middle, I see a minus sign. And so this is going to be very similar to the addition problems that we just did. However, when we are subtracting, we need to remember that subtracting is the opposite of addition. So we can't just put the terms together and then add them together. What we need to do is add the opposite of the second pair of parentheses. So I've changed the minus sign to a plus sign, and then both of these I'm going to make the opposite. So the negative 2x I'm going to turn into a positive 2x, and then the plus 6y I'm going to turn into a minus 6y. So I just change the minus to a plus, and then I change everything after that to the opposite. So, but the first part stays the same. So the 5x plus 9y, that part will stay the same. It's just what's after the minus sign that I turned to a plus. What's after that, we switch to the opposite. Okay. But now that I've made this a plus, now I can just combine the like terms. So I'm going to look at 5x. That's the first thing I see. Looks like 2x would be a like term with that because they both have x. So 5x plus 2x would be like terms we can put together. Next thing I see is this plus 9y, and that would be a like term with the minus 6y because they both have y. So plus 9y and minus 6y, and those would be like terms. Okay, going through our like terms, I have 5x plus 2x, that would give me 7x. And then 9y minus 6y would give me 3y. So since it's a positive 3, I'll put plus 3. And there's my final answer, 7x plus 3y. Okay, on to number 5. I again see a minus sign in the middle. So we're going to do the same thing we just did on number 4. I'm going to change that minus sign to a plus. And that means that everything after the minus sign, I'm going to make the opposite. So this 2b squared, I'm going to make negative 2b squared. This plus b, I'll make a negative b. And this minus 7, I'll make a plus 7. So I change the minus to a plus, and then everything after it, I make the opposite. But the first part stays the same. So the 9b squared minus 4b, that part stays the same. It's just what after is what we changed. Then I look for my like terms. I have 9b squared. That would be a like term with the negative 2b squared because they both have b squared. Next thing I see is negative 4b, and that would be a like term with the negative b. So negative 4b will be a like term with the negative b. And then finally, we have this plus 7. We don't have any like terms with it. There's no anything else that we can combine with it, but it is part of our problem. We can't just throw it away. It's got to come down into our problem. Okay, so now we're going to combine our like terms. We have 9b squared minus 2b squared. 9 minus 2 is 7, so that gives me 7b squared. For the negative 4b minus b, remember again this would be a minus 1b. So negative 4b minus 1b would give me negative 5b. And finally, we bring down this plus 7. Because we didn't have anything to combine with it, but it has to come down and be part of our answer. So here's where I'm going to end this video for the first part of the review. Make sure you go back and kind of rewatch anything that you need help with the explanation of, and ask any questions that you may have. So that way you are ready for the test either on Thursday or Friday, depending on what class you're in.